Okay, so we can continue. So we proceed now with drugs acting on the gastrointestinal tract. So uh, we know that the gastrointestinal tract serves many functions, and these are the targets actually of the different drugs that we will discuss. So, note, however, that some drugs that will be discussed here, yung mga drug classification sila, I'm sure na-encounter nyo na sila in the previous lectures. So for some drugs, you will be going through them quite fast because in general concepts nila have been discussed. You'll be only mentioning kung ano yung relevant sa kanila. So magfo-focus lang tayo doon sa uh, doon sa mga mga relatively new topics no na hindi pa siguro na discuss before sa inyo. So medyo madami itong mga drugs na to pero actually hindi naman in detail sa kanya will not be too much no. Pero kasi marami talagang drugs na ginagamit sa GIT. There are several GIT disorders. So yun yung natin magiging focus ng mga medications na di-discuss natin. First, so let's go to drugs that are used in acid peptic diseases. So, just to review to you, so ito yung schematic model ng physiologic control of hydrogen ion or acid secretion by the gastric parietal cells. So, ang kailangan siguro lang natin tandaan dito that there are several mediators of gastric acid secretion. May nag-inhibit at saka may nag-stimulate. So, ang mga nag-stimulate would be gastrin, histamine, and acting on the histamine 2 receptors, and acetylcholine. So yun yung mga important natin nag-stimulate. Tapos yung nag-inhibit naman would be somatostatin. And then, well, sa isang slide, yung next slide dito pinapakita rin yung prostaglandins. Diba? They are also important sa pag-reduce ng bicarbonate and, increase ng bicarbonate and mucus secretion. And they also decrease or inhibit gastric acid secretion. They can also cause vasodilation para mag-increase yung blood flow. So pagka di ba, remember sa NSAIDs which were discussed to you last time, ang effect niya would be increased na risk for GI bleeding and injury and bleeding kasi nawawala yung mga protective mechanisms. So yung prostaglandins are actually important in the cytoprotective effects on the stomach. We can also note here yung final common pathway ng mga mediators na to sa pag-secrete ng gastric acid. So this is the hydrogen potassium ATPase pump. Okay? So yan yung pinaka-final na pathway na nag-secrete ng hydrogen ion from the parietal cell into the lumen of the stomach. So this is another picture diagram showing to you the various acid suppression therapies that are available. So para dun sa mga pag-inhibit ng mga nag-stimulate ng gastric acid secretion, so you have atropine or your anti-muscarinic agents, although in itself hindi na siya masyadong ginagamit because of its widespread na systemic effects. Itong histamine 2 receptor blockers, yan. And then we also have yung neutralize ng gastric acid, yung mga antacids natin. And then we also have your proton pump inhibitors, yung nag-inhibit ng hydrogen potassium ATPase. You also see here some of your agents that can promote healing of the ulcers, such as sucralfate and bismuth, and yung action nga ng misoprostol as pag-enhance ng cytoprotective effects. ng prostaglandins. So, yung mga acid peptic diseases, this can be manifested as epigastric pain, stomach pain, and this would involve several conditions. So, yung GERD, peptic ulcer disease, stress-related na mucosal injury. So, yung mechanism of action ng drugs that are used in acid peptic diseases would have would of course achieve several objectives, no, sa treatment ng acid peptic disease. So it can either reduce intragastric acidity, they promote mucosal defense, or yung mga antibiotics, they would eradicate Helicobacter pylori, which is detectable in more than 80% of patients with duodenal ulcers. So you won't be going again through the different antibiotics, but just for you to recall, no, itong mga uh, uh, antibiotics, kasi na-lecture na yan sa inyo last semester. Pero part ng treatment ng peptic ulcer disease would involve eradication because mare-reduce niyan yung recurrence ng ulcers. Okay? So this just talk a little bit about the disease processes themselves. So yung GERD, ang main problem dito is a decreased lower esophageal sphincter pressure. And this can be caused by several factors, no? Pwedeng due to diet, certain food can lower the pressure ng lower esophageal sphincter. So, pwede ring physical, ngayon masyadong tight yung clothes, no, pwede rin yan. But most of the time, it can also be anatomic na, anatomically, hindi mataas yung pressure. Kaya madaling mag-reflux. So pag nagre-reflux siya, pwede mag-cause ng strictures, esophagitis, or yung Barrett's esophagus, which increases the risk ng development into or progression into esophageal cancer. So yung treatment dito, similar din, you reduce the acidity. You can also give some prokinetic agents, for these patients. And also mucosal protectants to promote healing. Yeah. Sa peptic ulcer naman, so the main cause would be Helicobacter pylori infection, NSAID use. So you remember your lecture, yung influence ng NSAID sa COX inhibition and therefore prostaglandin synthesis inhibition. So extreme stress, which also is a contributor to the reduction eventually ng prostaglandin synthesis. Kasi pagka mataas ang stress levels, mataas ang cortisol, so ma-inhibit niya yung phospholipase A2, which would now reduce arachidonic acid synthesis. And you know that arachidonic acid is the substrate ng cyclooxygenases, which would eventually convert your arachidonic acid to your prostaglandins, prostacyclins, and thromboxane. So, yeah. So, peptic ulcer disease can also be associated with a part of their Zollinger-Ellison syndrome, wherein there is a gastrin secreting tumor. So, therapy would be similar, no? Reduce intragastric acidity, promote healing, and eradicate Helicobacter pylori. So these are just yung some characterizations lang din ng peptic ulcer disease, and the common treatment yung triple or quadruple therapy. So which would involve a drug that lowers intragastric acidity plus antibiotics, and kung quadruple siya, an addition of a mucosal protectant that will promote also healing of the ulcers. So first, now let's go to your antacids. So be careful when you use the term antacids because kadalasan pag sinasabing antacid, ang idea natin, any drug that lowers gastric acidity. Pero technically, ang mga antacids, ito yung may specific na mechanism of action of neutralizing stomach acids. So they are weak bases that neutralize gastric acid and interact with the hydrogen ions to form salt and water. So, and also for some examples that contain either carbonate or bicarbonate, so they can also produce carbon dioxide in the reaction process. So historically, itong mga antacids yung ginagamit before the advent of the H2 blockers and the proton pump inhibitors. So sila yung sila yung ginagamit commonly to reduce intragastric acidity. Ang limitation lang niya, hindi niya nare-reduce yung gastric acid secretion. So ang nag-neutralize lang siya ng gastric acid. Ang maganda lang dito, immediate, relatively immediate or fast yung effect niya kasi immediate yung neutralizing effect niya. May chemical reaction that would occur pagka nag-combine yung isang weak acid sa weak base. So kaya mabilis niyang napapababa yung intragastric acidity. Pero it is not maintained because you still have mediators that would stimulate gastric acid production. So yung mga antacids natin are they differ mainly in two aspects, yung kanilang systemic absorption and yung effects on stool consistency. So you may be familiar with certain brands like, for example, Malox. And so this is magnesium hydroxide, aluminum hydroxide. Sometimes they are combined with an anti-flatulent, which is simethicone. Now, itong combination, itong magnesium hydroxide and aluminum hydroxide, magkasama silang binibigay. Kasi if they're given separately, the magnesium hydroxide causes diarrhea, while the aluminum hydroxide causes constipation. So they are given as a single product na combined na siya. Now, what is good about this formulation, hindi significant yung absorption niya sa bowel. So in terms of systemic effects, hindi siya ganun ka-prominent. In contrast to calcium carbonate and sodium bicarb, which are absorbed in the gut and can cause systemic effects. So this is why they are less popular. Another issue rin with these carbonate-containing agents, yung kanyang formation ng carbon dioxide, which can cause bloating and flatulence. So that's why nga rin binibigyan, may combination din yan na may anti-flatulent because of the carbon dioxide formation. So antacids are still available, they're still widely used. Maganda sila pagka sudden naka-feel na parang may epigastric pain yung patient, from nag-hyperacidity siya, or may GERD, and nag-ano siya. But it doesn't actually address the main underlying problem, either in GERD or in peptic ulcer disease. So next, you have the histamine 2 receptor blockers. So ang prototype ng mga histamine 2 blockers would be cimetidine. And siya yung if you're going to look at your references, since siya yung prototype, siya yung marami ring mga adverse effects na makikita. So majority of the adverse effects associated with this drug class would be limited lang sa cimetidine. So I think that would be more on the its effects on the cytochrome P450 enzymes as an inhibitor, and in relation to that, in terms of yung sa steroid synthesis. So later on, may endocrinologic na adverse effects siya. Pero itong mga adverse effects na yun, hindi na nakikita sa mga bagong histamine 2 blockers. So in the figure earlier that we showed, we showed you that histamine is one of the, as a bind to histamine 2 receptors at GI tract. So they can reduce gastric acid secretion. So they can be indicated for various acid peptic diseases. However, their use is being supplanted already by the proton pump inhibitors, which are more effective and are equally safe. So, kaya siya more effective yung mga PPIs kasi yung kanyang pag-reduce ng gastric acid is related sa kanyang action dun sa final common pathway ng pag-release ng hydrogen ions. Since PPIs act in that pathway, mas effective siya. In contrast dito sa H2 blockers, you remember na meron pang ibang pwedeng mag-stimulate ng gastric acid secretion. So nandun pa yung gastrin, nandun pa yung acetylcholine. Pwede rin sana pwede technically, atropine can also reduce gastric acid secretion. Kaya lang, magkakaroon ka naman ng systemic na anti-muscarinic effects. Kaya hindi siya commonly given na ngayon. So this is just to show to you yung mga histamine blockers, and later on you'll see isa antiemetics yung mga serotonin 3 antagonists for vomiting. So yan yung relevant sa atin mamaya. Now, ito nga, no, yung histamine receptors, these are G protein coupled receptors, and it can act also actually on, aside from the gastric parietal cells, it can also have an effect on the heart and on mast cells. Pero not clinically significant yung effect niyan on the heart and on the immune cells. So, ang primary na effect na nakikita natin is on the gastric parietal cell. Yeah. So we mentioned already the different classifications. Yung yung prototype would be cimetidine. And then the others have fewer adverse effects na associated with them. They are orally active and are relatively non-toxic and are available as over-the-counter preparations. Yung newer agents have a longer duration of action. So yung mga histamine H2 blockers natin, these are competitive antagonists sa histamine 2. So this is actually also another reason kung bakit hindi rin siya ganun ka-efficacious. Because histamine can still surmount the effects ng competitive blockade ng histamine 2 blockers. I think already mentioned yung kanyang mechanism and also yung kanyang non-clinically significant effect on the heart and on the mast cells. So they're clinically used in various acid peptic diseases. These are their doses. You don't need to memorize this now. This can also be given intravenously in stress-induced gastritis in patients in the ICU. Also given in GERD and in Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. So next, you have your proton pump inhibitors. So the prototype is omeprazole, and the others are the ones that are mentioned here. So at therapeutic doses, they're actually equally effective. Wala naman daw nagkakaiba. Hindi siya gaano nagkakaiba in terms of their efficacy. Nagkakaiba lang sa dosing. And for example, yung omeprazole is a racemic mixture siya ng drug. So may S enantiomer and R enantiomer siya. Yung S, siya yung active. So since racemic mixture siya, hindi lahat ng nabibigay may activity. On the other hand, esomeprazole is actually the S, parang ano lang siya, puro siya S-enantiomer, kaya siya S-omeprazole. So mas active siya. Kaya mas less yung frequency ng dosing ng esomeprazole compared to the prototype na omeprazole. Pero yun nga, kahit iba-iba yung kanilang preparations, nasabi ng ating mga clinical therapeutics na references na halos pare-pareho lang yung kanilang mga efficacy, nagkakaiba lang sa kinetics, frequency of dosing. So, itong mga PPIs, so these are lipophilic weak bases. And this would diffuse into the parietal cell canaliculi. They are eventually protonated and concentrated more than 1,000-fold. And yung kanilang, so kailangan yung protonated form para maging active siya. So para mag-irreversibly bind to the hydrogen potassium ATPase. Now, may some kinetic issues tayo with PPIs. In order for the PPIs to be converted into the active metabolite, kailangan siya kailangan ng acidic environment. So para ma-convert siya. Pero yung kanyang initial na preparation, pag ininom mo siya, it's actually acid labile. Ibig sabihin madali siyang ma-degrade in gastric acid. So paano natin, yung gusto natin mag-accumulate siya is in an acidic environment in the parietal cell canaliculi. Pero nadidegrade naman siya dun sa acid environment. So kaya yung mga oral formulations ng mga proton pump inhibitors, these are enteric-coated. So yung mga PPIs, kailangan i-take siya on an empty stomach. Tapos, pero since acidic siya, di ba, on an empty stomach, so kailangan enteric-coated siya. So eventually, it will go to your intestines. It will be absorbed into your systemic circulation. Then from the systemic circulation, pupunta siya dun sa parietal cell canaliculi. And from the parietal cell canaliculi, protonate siya, mag-accumulate siya. So as weak base, tapos mag-accumulate siya in the acid environment in the parietal cell canaliculi. So kaya kaya nag-concentrate siya more than 1,000-fold because nagkakaroon doon ng ion trapping. So you remember the concept of ion trapping before weak base in an acidic medium. So this irreversible, so yun yung issue sa kanya, kailangan i-take siya without a meal, tapos yung kanyang preparation is in an enteric-coated na formulation. Tapos, yung action niya on the receptor, so it irreversibly inactivates the hydrogen potassium ATPase. So this irreversible activity, irreversible drug interaction is the major reason for its long duration of action and efficacy. So since it acts in the final common pathway, so even yung nighttime and meal-stimulated na gastric acid secretion, marireduce siya. At the same time, because irreversible yung kanyang blockade, na-restore mo lang yung gastric acid secretion kapag na-turn over mo na yung parietal cell na yan. At mag-synthesize ka na ng bagong parietal cell na hindi pa na-bind ng drug. So kaya, kaya mahaba yung kanyang duration of action tsaka highly efficacious siya. So kaya lang nga ang onset o para ma-achieve yung full effectiveness may require around 3 to 4 days of treatment bago siya ma-achieve yung full effect niya. In the meantime, kung yung patient nakaka-experience pa ng epigastric pain, pwede pa mag-take ng antacid yung patient. Okay? So this is what I was saying a while ago regarding the preparations. So PPIs, as we said, are more effective than They're histamine 2 blockers in GERD and ulcer, although they are equally effective for non-ulcer dyspepsia and prevention ng stress-related mucosal bleeding. Also useful in Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. Now, PPIs are generally well tolerated and are safe, although there are some infrequent adverse effects. So examples would be GI, diarrhea, abdominal pain, and headache. Chronic treatment has been associated with hypergastrenemia because of the feedback mechanisms. So tumataas yung gastrin levels. So there was an initial concern that they can increase the incidence of certain malignancies, but these have not yet been documented. So they may also decrease oral bioavailability of vitamin B12 and drugs that require acidity for GIT absorption, like digoxin and ketoconazole. And I think yung dito, patients who take these drugs have a small increased risk of developing respiratory and enteric infections. Kasi pagka hindi na ganun ka-acidic ang stomach, mas hindi, remember yung stomach also may function din siya as for protection, di ba? Pagka may mga pathogens that you accidentally ingest, di ba? So pagka hindi yun napatay kasi nga mataas yung pH, so this can cause enteric infections, or pag na-aspirate yung gastric contents, they can cause respiratory infections. So next group of drugs would be the mucosal protectants. So you have sucralfate. So this is a small, poorly soluble molecule that polymerizes in the acid environment of the stomach. So it emphasized here yung acid environment. No? Kailangan acidic yung environment, no? Para mag-activate yung sucralfate. So it will form a protective coating over the ulcer beds. So para hindi siya further ma-injure ng mga gastric acid natin. So with this, they are able to accelerate the healing of the ulcers and would reduce the recurrence rate. An important disadvantage is the the high frequency na pag-take ng drug within the day. Pero ang advantage naman niya, yung kanyang systemic absorption is low, so very low yung kanyang systemic na toxicity. Next would be misoprostol. So misoprostol is a prostaglandin E1 analog which would function for mucosal protection by increasing mucus and bicarbonate secretion and decreasing acid secretion. They would also relax the vascular bed, and they can also relax other smooth muscles. So yung pag-relax ng vascular bed, siya yung reason para mag-increase yung blood flow in the gastroduodenum. Pero yung relaxation ng smooth muscle can also be a problem. So kaya if you look at the adverse effects niya, so GIT upset and diarrhea, yung isang adverse effect. Now, another important adverse effect ng misoprostol is it can cause uterine smooth muscle contractions. So and is used in combination with several drugs as an abortifacient. So this is why this drug is not registered in our local FDA because abortion is illegal in our country. So and since misoprostol is one of its indications is as such, so hindi siya registered sa atin. Although in OBGYN practice, misoprostol can also be used to in for example cervical ripening, and also in managing postpartum hemorrhage. Pero since nga it causes contraction ng uterus, pero hindi yan dapat available sa atin, pero you will encounter that's actually available in the black market. So maraming nagdadala niya from other countries. So you may be familiar with the brand name Cytotec. So yan yun. So if you look at the brand name, Cytotec, it's actually a cytoprotective agent. If you look at the second bullet, it reduces the risk of ulcers in patients who are taking NSAIDs. So it's actually approved for preventing NSAID-induced gastritis. Pero yun nga, hindi siya available sa country natin kasi it's not an FDA registered drug in our country. Okay? So next is colloidal bismuth. So it has multiple actions, both may protective effect siya and also may direct na antimicrobial effects. So it performs a protective coating on the ulcerative tissue and stimulates protective mechanisms. Because of its direct antimicrobial effects and sequestration of enterotoxins, it can also be used in travelers' diarrhea. So itong formulation ito, yung bismuth subsalicylate, it's an over-the-counter formulation which reduces stool frequency and liquidity in infectious diarrhea. Important adverse effect would be black stools. So you need to reassure the patient or inform the patient in advance na the stools may become discolored and this is nothing to worry about. Well, overdoses ng mga salicylates can also result sa manifestations ng salicylism. So yung mga salicylate na overdose. So you need to also be careful din in the dosing. So ito naman yung mga antibiotics. So we'll just mention yung mga commonly used antibiotics. Metronidazole, mga macrolides, amoxicillin, tetracyclines. So these are the antibiotics that are used in quadruple or triple therapy. So hindi ko na kayo ngayon, as for now, may papamemorize na mga regimen sa sa clinical therapeutics na yan. So basta ngayon alam niyo lang na these are the antibiotics that are included in the eradication of Helicobacter pylori. Okay? So this is a new drug, vonoprazan. So this is a potassium competitive acid blocker. Which also inhibits gastric acid secretion, the hydrogen potassium ATPase, but it provides rapid, long-lasting, reversible inhibition. This would be in contrast with several characteristics ng proton pump inhibitors. So, ang advantage ng vonoprazan is that it does not require enteric coating. It is acid stable, rapid absorption. It can be taken without food. So anytime, and then accumulates in parietal cells, both under acid and neutral conditions. So it does not require an acidic environment for activation. So, and also has long-term stability at the site of action na okay din yung kanyang safety. So it offers several advantages over the PPIs. So ito lang ulit yung mga yung summary ng mga characteristics ng ating mga drugs for acid peptic diseases. H2 blockers, PPIs, antacids, bismuth, and yung misoprostol. So next, we can proceed now to drugs that promote upper GI motility. So yung mga drugs for upper GI motility, ano bang mga indications yan for sometimes patients with GERD, so but also primarily for patients with gastroparesis and post-surgical delay ng gastric emptying. Gastroparesis is one of the complications of diabetes. Pagka na damage na yung mga nerves, particularly in the enteric nervous system. So prokinetic agents are useful in these conditions. So historically, cholinomimetic agents, whether direct like botanical and indirect agents like neostigmine, are used, no? Pero hindi na sila masyadong ginagamit ngayon because we have available drugs that are less toxic. So, but conceptually, so ito yung alam naman natin pagka cholinomimetic, that will promote peristalsis. Kaya yun yung kanilang dahilan kung bakit ginagamit sila for gastroparesis and delay in gastric emptying. But there are other new drugs which we'll also mention in the next slides. One group of drugs would be itong mga dopamine 2 receptor antagonists. So, yung dopamine would normally inhibit the cholinergic stimulation ng smooth muscles in the enteric nervous system. So, by blocking the dopamine receptors, masistimulate ngayon yung smooth muscle contraction. So, two important examples are metoclopramide and domperidone. So they can also block dopamine 2 receptors in the area postrema, which is the parang vomiting center. So they can also be used as antiemetics in patients who have undergone surgical anesthesia. So because pagka nag-iway ng effect ng general anesthesia, nagkakaroon ng emetogenic na effect din siya. And then yung cancer chemotherapy-induced na vomiting. So adverse effects, chronic metoclopramide use can cause symptoms of Parkinsonism and other extrapyramidal effects, as well as hyperprolactinemia. And I'm sure you recall, no, ano ba yung dahilan? Anong dopaminergic tract ang affected diyan ng mga pagka nagkaroon ng drug-induced Parkinsonism? What dopaminergic tract is involved? Mag-aabang ako sa chat. Anong dopaminergic tract ang involved sa pag-produce ng drug-induced Parkinsonism? O na-discuss natin yan sa antipsychotics, di ba? O letter A, mesolimbic. Letter B, mesocortical. Letter C, nigrostriata. Letter D, tuberoinfundibular. O yan, o may nag-message na nigrostriata, correct. O yung Parkinsonism naman, ay yung hyperprolactinemia naman. Anong tract? Pag nabablock niya, nagkakos ng hyperprolactinemia. Tuberoinfundibular, correct. Ayan, may nag-chat. Okay. So, dapat hindi nyo makalimutan yun. Paulit-ulit kong tinatanong yun. Ayan. So, in contrast naman, itong domperidone, hindi siya nagkakos ng blood-brain barrier. So, less likely siya na mag-cause ng CNS toxicity. So, yan ang important dyan. So, yung other characteristics niya would be, of course, in relation to the dopamine 2 blockers, which we already discussed before. So, you might be familiar with yung brand name na Motilium. Yan yung domperidone. Diba? Tapos yung metoclopramide placin. Other drugs that can promote motility, yung erythromycin. So it's a macrolide antibiotic that stimulates the motilin receptors. If you remember my lecture before to you on macrolides, one of the important adverse effects would be GIT distress, diarrhea. So, yan yung erythromycin. Yan yung kanyang may prominent na effects on the motilin receptors. Meron pang ibang mga prokinetic agents like cisapride and tegaserod, which act on serotonin receptors, but these are not commonly used. And itong cisapride has actually been withdrawn from the market already. So yung tegaserod, I think still available pa siya. So sa serotonin receptors yata yun. Serotonin 3 receptor. Ay hindi serotonin 3. Nakalimutan ko na kung saan siya nag-act. Basta it's one of the serotonin receptor subtypes, yung tegaserod. Yeah. So ito yung characteristics lang ng metoclopramide. You will encounter this again when you go to your antiemetics later. So, pero ito yung kanyang mga characteristics. So, again, in relation to the dopamine receptor blocking activity. So, next, we go to your laxatives. So, laxatives can be given in patients with constipation. Although, syempre, pag constipated ka, hindi naman every time magtitake ng laxative, di ba? Pwedeng mo lang sa diet, increase fluid intake, or fiber intake. What else? Yung baka kulang ka sa, you also need to move para mag-stimulate yung contraction. So if you don't move as much, so baka hindi ka masyadong nag-stimulate ng peristalsis. But laxatives have important clinical use. For example, if you're going to prepare a patient prior to colonoscopy, yan. Or for example, yung ang patient post-MI, nasa ICU, walang bathroom privileges, tapos pero pagka if we want to prevent straining, kaya binibigyan siya ng osmotic laxative like lactulose para maka-defecate siya without straining as much. So these laxatives would act in several mechanisms of action. So there are bulk-forming agents, stool softeners, lubricants, and irritants or stimulants. So these are the examples of your laxatives and their mechanisms of action. So pagka, naman siya, yung kanilang mechanism of action are self-explanatory. So yung bulk forming, so pagka kasi walang distension sa intestines, walang stimuli ng peristalsis. So when you have bulk forming na laxatives, or for example yung osmotic agents, so these would attract water. So kaya itong mga osmotic agents hindi yan well absorbed. So kaya they would attract water into the lumen of the intestines, so para ma-facilitate yung defecation. Stool softening, as the term implies, so they insert themselves within the within the structure ng feces para mag-soften sila. Mineral oil can act also as a lubricant. Ito namang mga stimulant, similar to erythromycin, they can stimulate the enteric nervous system. So yung aloe, senna, cascara, castor oil, bisacodil. So these are stimulant laxatives. Ang main problem natin sa stimulant laxatives is that they can cause dependence, and some can abuse them as for weight loss. I'm sure you're familiar with senna leaves, yung tsaa na that is promoted for good digestion, quote unquote, but actually it's a laxative. What else? So I forgot to mention yung mineral oil pala. Pag hindi siya dapat ma-aspirate. Pag na-aspirate siya, pwedeng mag-cause ng severe lipopneumonitis. And then you have your chloride channel activators like tobeprostone and linaclotide. So we'll mention these two drugs later when we go to irritable bowel syndrome na constipation dependent. And then ito namang opioid receptor antagonists like methyl naltrexone and alvemopan. These are given primarily to patients who are on chronic opioid therapy. So I think it was lectured to you, no, yung opioids can be given for chronic pain or for certain conditions. Pero syempre, ang isa sa mga adverse effects ng opioids would be constipation. So, itong methyl naltrexone and alvemopan, so they can be given, no, to relieve yung constipation itong mga pasyente na to na naka-chronic opioids, or sometimes nga yung mga post-op patients din na nabigyan ng opioids. Yan yung binibigay sa kanila. This is different from the naltrexone and nalmefene and naloxone. So itong mga to hindi nagko-cross to ng blood-brain barrier. So primarily systemic lang yung effect lang is on the GI tract. So again, these are the laxatives that are available, their examples, and the mechanisms of action and important na adverse effects. Of course, the adverse effect would be diarrhea. And a common adverse effect among them then, because of the diarrhea, would be metabolic alkalosis. Ano pa bang medyo wala din? Lactulose. Lactulose can also be used to treat hepatic encephalopathy. So in patients with liver failure. So yung gut flora, i-degrade niya yung lactulose into lactic acid and acetic acid that promote nitrogen excretion. Tapos itong melanosis coli, na adverse effect ng is specific for SENA. Yeah. So ang problem natin dito sa stimulant laxatives lang din, pwede mag-develop din ng dependence yung patient nga doon sa mga stimulant na laxatives. So next, we go to the anti-diarrheal agents. So these are effective. So yung pinaka-effective na anti-diarrheal agents are those which act on the opioid receptors. So yung diphenoxylate, no, enloperamide. So maximal anti-diarrheal effect pero minimal CNS effect. With the exception, well, yung diphenoxylate, they can actually cross the blood-brain barrier. So pwede mag-develop ng dependence din siya. Diphenoxylate is commonly formulated together with antimuscarinic agents. Tapos, what else? So, para yung decreased likelihood ng abuse, that is when it is combined already with atropine. Because alone, nga siya mataas yung risk niya for dependence. Pero kapag na-combine na rin siya, that would with your antimuscarinic agent, it will decrease the likelihood of abuse. But alone, it crosses kasi the blood-brain barrier. So, siyempre, ang adverse effect niya can cause constipation. So another example of anti-diarrheal agents, itong kaolin and pectin. Although personally, I haven't seen this available in our country or used, but it's a combination of two agents that would absorb bacterial toxins and fluid and eventually reduce stool liquidity. So they can cause constipation and can also interfere with absorption of several drugs. So it may be used safely in patients with mild to moderate acute diarrhea, but not for those if you see yung mga may infectious na form of diarrhea. So yan yung cowpectate. I think this is the last slide for the anti-diarrheal agents. So next, yung mga drugs for irritable bowel syndrome. So ano ba ang irritable bowel syndrome? Pag isang patient nagko-complain ng recurrent episodes ng abdominal discomfort accompanied by either diarrhea or constipation or sometimes both. So yun yung irritable bowel syndrome. So the treatment is tailored to the patient's symptoms. Pwedeng magbigay ng anticholinergic for the abdominal spasm, although hindi siya nakita na ganun ka efficacious. So you treat primarily yung predominant symptoms if it is diarrhea or constipation. So, additionally, merong mga iba pang drugs that can be given that are specific for irritable bowel syndrome. So you have allocetrone, which is a serotonin 3 receptor antagonist for severe IBS with diarrhea. So, however, in use nito is restricted, because it can cause severe constipation that sometimes required hospitalization or surgery and even ischemic colitis. So, yan lang yung ano. You will encounter this group of drugs later on we go to the anti-emetic drugs. Pero yung allocetrone kasi hindi siya as efficacious as the other examples for the anti-emetic effect. So, limited yung use niya for this indication shown here. Now, another group of laxatives, nasa table to kanina sa laxatives, yung lubiprostone at saka yung linaclotide. So these agents activate type 2 chloride channels in the small intestines, and they can be used primarily in constipation predominant na IBS. So ang difference lang nila, itong lubiprostone is directly acting while linaclotide is indirect acting. So ang ginagawa ng linaclotide is in elevating the cyclic GMP levels, which would activate the type 2 chloride channels. Okay. So next, itong drugs with anti-emetic actions. So you see this slide, so maraming drugs na mayroong mga anti-emetic na effect. So of course, we need to recall the physiology of vomiting, ano ba yung mga mediators that stimulate vomiting, and therefore these drugs would act to inhibit either the mediators or the receptors that would stimulate vomiting. So yung dopamine, two antagonists like metoclopramide would have anti-emetic effects. Those with the histamine 1 receptor blocking activity like your first generation antihistamines like histamine and phenothiazines. So if you remember yung mga phenothiazines, yan yung kasama yan yung mga low potency antipsychotic agents. So hindi siya pag low potency, ibig sabihin, hindi siya masyadong nagbabind sa dopamine 2 receptors, but it has a strong binding affinity to the other receptors, particularly histamine, additionally muscarinic and adrenergic receptors. So the histamine 1 blocking activity affords the anti-emetic activity of this group of antipsychotics, yung mga phenothiazines. Dr. Dueñas lectured to you about anti-muscarinic drugs. So yung scopolamine is one important anti-emetic drug. Although we need to we need to remember that vomiting and nausea can also be precipitated by, motion sickness. So hindi naman lahat due to chemotherapy-induced vomiting. So mas common binibigay yan for that indication. Dexamethasone as a corticosteroid, hindi ganun pa-clear kung ano ba talaga yung mechanism of action niya as an anti-emetic agent. But they have been seen to enhance the effect of the other anti-emetics. So dexamethasone is commonly given also with other medications, anti-emetics, especially in chemotherapy-induced vomiting. Yeah. Tapos dronabinol and nabilone, these are cannabinoid receptor agonists. So sa lecture ninyo on drugs of abuse, I'm sure it was mentioned that cannabinoids can also have anti-emetic activity. So these are drugs that bind to your cannabinoid receptors. Now, we focus on your serotonin 3 receptor antagonist. So the prototype is ondansetron, and then you have your other derivatives. So these are used commonly for post chemotherapy-induced vomiting and patients who have received general anesthesia. So the serotonin 3 receptor is located in the chemoreceptor trigger zone in the area postrema. So, and bakit man nagkukos ng vomiting ang chemotherapy agents? Kapag mayroon kang tumor, for example, and then you receive chemotherapeutic agent, syempre, may ano siya, mamamatay yung mga ibang cancer cells. And when these cancer cells die off, they release a lot of mediators that can cause vomiting. And one important mediator would be serotonin. So, yung serotonin receptors, di ba, yung area postrema, if you remember, siya yung area sa brain na hindi prominent ang blood-brain barrier. So it functions as for receiving chemical signals. So kaya nagko-cause ng madaling makapunta yung mediators doon kasi hindi naman prominent yung blood-brain barrier in that area. So yung mga highly efficacious in preventing vomiting na mga serotonin antagonists would be ondansetron, larnicetron, and dolasetron. Itong alosetron, they lack antiemetic effects, kaya limited nga siya dun sa IBS kanina. Important adverse effects would be diarrhea, headache, tapos with the dolasetron, QRS and QT prolongation in the ECG. So they should not be used in patients with heart disease or with any other drug that can also prolong the QT interval because they can increase the risk of torsade arrhythmias. And itong alosetron na mention natin kanina yung adverse effect yung severe constipation, pwedeng rarely mag-cause ng ischemic colitis. And last, for the antiemetic drug, itong aprepitant. So this is a newer antiemetic binding to the urokinin 1 receptor also located in the area postrema. So mediate yung kanyang, it is activated by several other mediators that can also stimulate vomiting. So binibigay din yan sa mga chemotherapy for prevention of chemotherapy-induced vomiting. So, adverse effects, constitutional effects, and then substrate siya at inhibitor ng CYP3A4. So, and we know from your lecture in kinetics, di ba, CYP3A4 siya yung responsible sa metabolism of around 85% of available drugs. So, this may, hindi mo naman expect na memorize yung lahat ng drug. So just take note na CYP3A4 substrate at inhibitor siya. Okay? I think this is the last part. Konti na lang, no? 10 o'clock na? 9:59 na. So we can stop now and then we can proceed later on at 1 o'clock for our lecture, continuation lecture. And then you'll have your post-lecture quiz at 4 p.m. So you start at 4, you preload at 4, it will start at 4:10 and end at 4:25. Okay? Sige, if there are no more questions, you can leave the meeting already. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you po. Thank you, Doc.